Throughout the past 16 years of teaching throughout Canada, Mexico, and Australia, Kelli has gathered the most transformational elements from each of the yoga styles she has studied to create her own brand of super slowed down, breath focused, total relaxation inducing yoga called HeartGlow Yoga. Kelli's own brand of HeartGlow Yoga has helped her to sell out international HeartGlow Yoga retreats in tropical destinations worldwide, monthly HeartGlow Yoga events in the city, along with monthly mini retreats at her home in Avalon. Kelli's extensive and diverse training, along with her deep well of life experience and her willingness to be authentic and vulnerable, sharing where she stumbled and what she's learned along the way, make her classes a one-of-a-kind experience in coming home to your fullest, most spacious, relaxed self. By bringing to the surface that which needs to be transformed, Kelli's classes give students an opportunity to not just identify with what is keeping them stuck physically, mentally, and emotionally from living their happiest, fullest lives, but to actually let it go. All right. Welcome, Kelli. How are you?
So good. So excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So I started to just, a little background into, I guess, how I found you. I think I started following you about 15 years ago on Facebook, or I don't even think I had Instagram at the time. So I'm pretty sure it was Facebook, and then I transitioned over to Instagram. And I just was always really captivated, not only by your yoga, but also by, you just had so much like body positivity posts and
Yes.
self-awareness and self-love. And so I really do want to, just kind of start off and say thank you for, all that content that you post out there, because it is fantastic. And I think it's helpful for so many women, and I'm sure a lot of men too.
Yeah. It's still an important reminder for me. I think our self-love journey is such a continual one, and one that we have to stay really centered and focused on because of how hardwired we are from a very young age, especially as women, and men as well. But I think especially as women, it starts, I see it in my 5-year-old, there's already comparison between bodies, or they think they should look like what they see portrayed in the media. And so the ingraining that we're trying to rewire is it's deep, it's really deep. So
Absolutely.
Self-love practice, I think has to be like right at the forefront of what we're focusing on, because without the self-love and that support from the inside, from that inner voice that talks to you more than anybody else, that the roommate's there with you all the time, like it's chatting all the time, right? And if it's constantly berating you or putting you down, no matter what you're doing outwardly, if that inner environment doesn't match, you're not ever going to create whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's like more bliss or a stronger core or higher vibration relationships, right? So it all has to actually start from the inside and from a place of self-love.
Yeah, for sure. And you're absolutely right, because that inner voice is the one that, it's there constantly. And most of the time, we don't even, until we start bringing awareness to it, we don't even hear the things that it's saying, or we're just not aware of the effect that they can have on us, and how many times a day there's a negative thought rather than a positive one.
Totally. And that's actually the exact center of everything I teach. Like that's the core teaching is that I teach people how to stop identifying with that voice in their head, that roommate that chatters all the time, and how to actually step back from it and stay really centered in the seat of consciousness, so that you are conscious that you're the witness watching that voice chat. So when the voice starts to be, a dickhead, and it's saying negative shit that's not helping you, it's not nurturing you, it's not supporting you, the witness can go, wait a minute, no, I'm not going to go down that pathway. And then you realign, moment by moment, when the voice is saying stuff that just is misaligning you. Because the thing is, that voice that's chatting, the roommate, is just programmed by your subconscious, right? So it's like an accumulation of all the crap you've ever thought. And unfortunately, it usually doesn't yield the reality that you want to create when you follow it. So our job, our mission, I guess, is to wake up to the fact that we're not the voice chatting and we're not the body or the emotions, but we're the spirit and the awareness, the consciousness that's experiencing all of it. And that awareness and consciousness is our center. Like it's literally the essence of who you are. And without being connected to that center, then you are, away in that chattery voice, and you're overcome by the ego and probably not in a place of self-love. And then you're not going to end up creating a reality of the highest level. So yeah, the mission is to wake up to the fact that you're the witness having this experience, which includes that voice talking in your head, and the job of rewiring what that roommate is saying and getting it on board as like a teammate so that you can be your brightest self.
Yeah, I love that you call it the roommate. I've never heard of that before, but I'm stealing that one.
You know what's so amazing that happened on a retreat recently? I had a new student named Janice, and the whole weekend we were talking about this concept of the roommate. In the last class, I kept calling her Janine. And at the end of the session, she laughed and she was like, do you know what's so funny? I didn't correct you because I'm now going to call the roommate in my head Janine.
Oh.
So I call her Janice Janine now. And it's like, and we make a joke when she goes to have an egotistical moment. She's like, oh, that bitch Janice again wants me to do this. But it's great because what it does by naming that voice in your head, I named her Kelli. She's the goddess of destruction because that voice can destroy anything, no matter how good it is, that voice is powerful. And so if you name it, when it starts to say negative things to you, you can actually not identify with it, where you're like, that's not me. And I don't have to believe that voice. So instead, I will stay centered in Kelli instead of running off with Kelli, the destructor, who's going to take me to some place that's never going to create a strong core or centered mind or peacefulness. And yeah, by giving it another name, it just disempowers that voice, because most of the time the voice is telling you total bullshit anyways. Like if you watch your voice throughout the day to day, notice how many times it's wrong. It'll just create a story about everything that you're witnessing. And most of the time it's completely wrong, yet we're there trusting everything that it says, and imagine if you had a friend who gave you horrible advice all of the time. Eventually you'd be like, why am I going back to her? She doesn't know what's going on. But then we listen to the voice in our head that's usually giving us worse advice than any friend has ever given ever. And at the same time saying worse shit to you on a regular basis than you'd ever accept someone else saying to you, And so, yeah, first step is notice that voice. Notice it's not you. Name it. Stop identifying with it, and then start listening to what it's saying and realign those thoughts to constantly be ones that are, instead of putting you down, constantly shifting your perception and picking yourself up, picking yourself up, picking yourself up. And then it's through that self-love that then you actually start making better choices about, whatever it is, whether you're going to get on your mat and practice, or you're going to work out because you want a stronger physical core, or you're going to organize your house. You're never going to be motivated to do it from a place of self-loathing.
You're 100% right that when it comes to awareness is the key in order to start catching that voice.
Yeah.
So you're in Sydney, Australia right now, and that's where you live. You've been there for how many years have you been there for?
Oh, since 2008. So 12 years permanently living here now.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Sorry.
Oh, no, the move here actually was what really pushed me to develop the style of yoga I teach, because I was running from myself. I had a lot of trauma in Canada, a lot of anxiety, and I suffered very bad depression. I physically made myself sick from how much anxiety I had in high school and university. I was always in the hospital and trumped every specialist I ever saw. No one could figure it out. Psychiatrists couldn't figure it out. I saw microscopes put down my throat. It was intense. And I ran for myself every way that I could. I went and partied for summers in Montreal and do so much drugs. I just tried to numb myself out. I would run and travel. And eventually I ran here and I got here, and wherever you go, there you are. There I was, right? And I was so far away from all my friends, all my family, everything, that the journey that I'd been trying to, make by going outwards, it's like I turned it back in and I went within, and I realized that the only one who was going to be able to figure out what was going on essentially was me, and that I'd been trying for 28 years, to for other people to figure it out. I'd put it in the hands of specialists and nobody could figure it out, like literally no one. And so I guess from that place of desperation and having tried everything else, I had to sort out how to heal myself. And so that's now what I teach. I teach others the journey that I went through, moving from self-loathing to being self-loving and becoming self-aware, and then realizing by staying in the center of my awareness, like identifying as the witness, right, instead of the one in all the pain, that I was able to start shifting that pain from the inside, rather than moving to another country or finding another partner. The changes happen within.
So yeah, your journey to become a speaker and a yoga teacher, a leader, then has all been based on your past of pain that you had and running from it. So, and then I guess finding ways to transition that so that you could teach others to look inwards at themselves.
Yeah. And it was, I spent a lot of time feeling really ashamed about how sick I was with my own anxiety, and feeling really ashamed about feeling like such a victim. I had a lot of loss and, just a lot of shit happened in my youth. And I just didn't feel like I loved myself. And so a big part of the journey as well with self-love, right, is I get asked this question all the time. Well, how do I practice self-love? And I'm not even just talking about physically, like how do I love my arms or my stomach? I mean, how do I love myself with all my dark thoughts and all the shit that I've done and, all of the darkness? How do I love it? Well, you learn to love yourself when you realize who you are, when you realize you're not the human doing all the human limited shit. You're actually the energy, the consciousness having the human experience. So when you start to identify as consciousness, you realize that there's nothing about you physically, mentally, or emotionally that could deem you unworthy of unconditional love, or that could change the fact that your inherent true nature is the divine. Like, you are literally the light, soul, the witness, loving awareness, consciousness. It's all the same word, right? And that's your core. That's your center, is this like ball of bright, brilliant, burning enoughness, like the sun, and then what happens is most of us don't identify with it. We identify with the human and all their pain. And then that brightness that's within gets cloaked by all of our blocked energy. So what I teach is I use the body like an instrument, and we stir up the body through prying it open with very specific alignment. And when you pry the body open, you trigger it physically. And what it does is it triggers, in yoga, they're called samskaras. So it's all your stuck energy. It swirls inside of you. It's like a cyclone or like a tornado, and life presses on it all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. And life presses on the samskaras in order to trigger that old stuck energy, to bring it up, so that you, if you stay centered in the seat of consciousness rather than identifying with all the stuck shit within you, your consciousness will purify that stuck energy. And the energy that used to cloak your brightness, not only does it no longer cloak you, but it feeds your inner light. And then that's how you burn brighter. And that's how you love yourself, no matter what this vehicle looks like or what the mind is doing or the heart, because you're aware of who you are. You're aware that you're consciousness, you're the guru, you're the creator, you're not the human. And so it's through the stop identifying with all of this and ground into who you really are that you actually take control over the physical vehicle. And that includes things like getting stronger, or, creating a stronger core, or more mobility, or whatever it is you're trying to create.
And I mean, it's such a great point, because you're going to have to face it at some point, and it's just a matter of when. Because if it's like I mean, with most people, it's either something that they're trying to change here, something that they're trying to change in the body, and you can keep working on it and changing things and getting whatever it is, Botox, or trying to change your body. When you're, how is that going to be when you're 80 and 90 years old? Are you then going to start to try and find ways to love yourself and be okay? Or are you going to do it now? grow with it and have the time, because it is a journey, and it's not like you're gonna, I don't think ever, do you ever find that you can just, you're never gonna get to that point and be like,
It's
oh,
a
I'm there, I totally, like, you know, just love myself every single day, but it does get easier.
It's a back and forth. So like this musician East Forest, who did an amazing album with the spiritual teacher Ram Dass before he passed away, he talks about our awakening. So what I'm talking about as well, being grounded in your center, it's like an awakening, right? An awakening to the fact that you're not the human, and that your consciousness, like having the human experience, that's the awakening we're meant to have through embodiment. And when you wake up to that, that's when enlightenment happens, and there's no more reincarnation, because you no longer need the tool of the body to have the duality to realize who you are, because spirit comes into the body to realize what it's not. Because when you're in spirit realm, there's no duality. So you embody into manifestation to experience manifestation, but to awaken to who you are, because it's only through realizing what you're not, like, that you realize who you are. There has to be an observer and subject relationship, and when there's nothing to look at, you can't see yourself. So that's why we embody. So we embody to have this realization that you are none of this physical shit, that you're the spirit within. But the thing is, all the physical stuff is so captivating that we have a back and forth where we identify with the physical body or the emotions or the thoughts, and then you go back and you'll sit back again in being the seat of the guru. And so I don't think you ever get to a point where you just, or no, you do get to a point where you, I guess you unconditionally love, and that's when you're fully awakened and there's no more reincarnation. But for now, it's best to accept the back and forth. That's the thing. If you choose to see yourself through how everyone else sees you, there's always going to be something that's not enough, because society is constantly trying to wire into people, especially women, that there's things that are not enough, right? Because everybody makes money off that, you know, Botox, and we color our hair, need to be skinnier and freeze this fat and put laser here, and now you're doing needling, and fucking waist train this, and shove your boobs up here, and smaller underwear, like, shave your legs and your armpit. It just goes on and on and on, right? And there'll always be something that someone will deem not enough. So the trick is, look at yourself through your own lens and realize that other people, in the way they see you, is their shit. That's the stuff that's on their consciousness, and it has nothing to do with you. But the only way that you get to that place is if you realize that it's you who sets your own beauty standards, it's you who decides. Like, you have to choose, even my hair. When we got into this call, you commented and you said, I love your hair. Yeah. I go to lots of dinner parties in the northern beaches. It's happened to me more than once, where I've had women reach out and touch my hair and go, isn't your hair a bit fun? Isn't your hair a bit silly? Oh, look at your hair, because everyone's so polished. So it's like, is my hair great and it's beach hair, or is it frizzy and it's not acceptable? Well, it's neither. It just is, and I choose whether or not I love it. So that comes from sitting in the seat of awareness, and again, every time you catch yourself, oh, my skin's getting old, or oh, my hair, oh, this, or oh, I just said that, or all that emotion, you just sit back and you love yourself anyways, and you just realign and you realign, and that's how you end up shining brighter and brighter and brighter, no matter what is going on with the physical vehicle or the heart or the mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I used to have a coach that would say, a peach, like, there can be people that like peaches and people that don't like peaches. The people that don't like peaches, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the peach, because it's great and it's tasty and it's juicy. One person doesn't, that's the constant, but our perceptions are all
different. Well, how
based on the lens that we, look through.
We see it through. Well, sorry, there's totally a time lag there. I didn't mean to try to talk. We were talking at the same time. There was a lag. Ram Dass has a really great analogy, and he talks about it as learning how to see people as trees, which is the same thing as learning as seeing people as souls instead of the human body. And he said, when you go into a forest, you see a tree that's bent this way and a tree that's bent like that, and trees that are whatever. And you look at them and you see them all for the beautiful trees. You don't look at one and think, I don't like the shape of that one's leaves, or that one should be growing that way. You look at them all and you can see that they've grown the way that they have, because they're all just trying to find the sun. And so you look at them and there's no judgment. You just see them for the beauty they are, and you see them looking for the sun. He said, but when you get humans involved, because there's an ego, and there's this ego inside of you, the roommate, who constantly feels not enough, right, as the human. And so what that voice is always trying to do is judge against others to try to deem that we're enough. So instead of seeing people as souls, we look at them and it's like, oh, well, you're too much of this, or I'm too much that, or you're not enough this, or I'm not enough that. Whereas if you just look at everyone as souls and you stop seeing all of this other stuff that's human, and then you're able to love them unconditionally until you realize that you can love yourself unconditionally, because you're not the body, mind, soul. You can't give it to anybody else, you know? So again, it's why it starts with you first. You have to work on figuring out what it is that you're not loving about yourself. And then you love that, you know, and then from that space, you stay centered in your core and you move out to navigate from love with others.
Yes, absolutely. And so speaking of the core, how have you found throughout like your 16 years of being a master instructing yoga, running the retreats, how have you found that those like that limiting belief or self-talk can be
Yeah.
you know, someone in their practice or someone when it comes to like
Yeah.
the of their core?
Yeah, it's completely affects it 100%. So I've been teaching yoga, for like 16 years now. And, you know, I've always been active. I've always worked out. But I've never, ever, ever had the core strength that I've had now in the last, let's say 2 years. And it's not a coincidence. It parallels completely with me moving into a really deep space of self-love. You know, I've been talking self-love on my channels for years and years, like 15 years, but you know how for a long time, I guess you're talking the talk while you're trying to walk the walk, you know, and it took a lot of years for me to get to a place where I genuinely am saturated in self-love for myself. And even when I weighed 15 kilos more, I got to a space where I did a photo shoot and I remember saying to the photographer, I was like, Rosh, get these rolls on my back. This shit's sexy. Get this. You know, I was like, this is great. And the rolls aren't there anymore and I still feel sexy. But my core, it didn't get strong, like very, very literally until I became really full of self-love. Because what happens is when you go to your mat and you're trying to, let's say, do ab work and strengthen your core, the roommate is talking to you in your head, right? And the core work at the beginning is going to be challenging because your core, it's such a deep muscle. Like it's all the whole center, right? And your glutes. It's a lot of shit going on. And if you're not using the right muscles, you definitely will pull your hip flexors or your back. So what happens is the poses are hard. The body initially isn't strong. And then the brain starts chattering, right? You're so weak. You're not good enough. Oh, feel how fat your stomach is. And say the nastiest shit. Like listen to what it will say. And then what happens is you get discouraged or you get frustrated and then you want to punish the body and then you'll start pushing through the workouts. You don't trigger the correct muscles. You hurt your back, you hurt your neck, you leave feeling like you have to go and stretch, and then you feel completely discouraged to ever do the work. So what the best thing you can do for yourself is when you go into practice core work, the first thing you have to watch even before your body is the brain. So you have to clear the brain and you stay in your center of consciousness, and then you watch the brain as you start to do the physical work, and you notice, is it trying to distract you or chattering away? And every time it talks, you put the brain away, you silence that roommate, and you stay 100% focused on the message, I'm getting stronger. Every time you go, I'm weak, no, I'm getting stronger. I'm doing the work, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting stronger. You reinforce. And then because your brain's not distracted with all those like negative thoughts, then you can actually get the mind-body connection going on. Because if your brain isn't firing for your core, there's no way your core is going to do the work. Your hip flexors are your fight or flight muscles, and they will instantly take over. And so does QL, this muscle back here at the back. So for you to engage your core properly, you really need to be engaging rib to rib, lower hip to hip, and rib to hip. So there's 1, 2, 3 things happening, and all of that has to squeeze in. And even when you're being so mindful and loving, it's very difficult to engage all that properly. So if the brain feels shitty and you're there judging your body or judging your strength, there's just no way. Like I've worked with so many people, watching people when they don't feel good about themselves. There's no way that you will get stronger. You will hurt yourself. You'll get discouraged, and then you'll go do something like self-punish, you know, where you'll binge eat or you'll binge negative shit into your brain. You know, it's like I've seen it here where I live in Avalon. It's all, I swear, 90% of people here are between 35 and like 45 and, you know, really fit, and everyone's really quite obsessed with like fitness and looking good and meeting all those standards. And I watched all my mom friends 2 years ago all go nuts for F45 and all that stuff because none of them were into mindfulness or had a mindfulness practice, and they found Pilates boring. And then I went to reformer for 2 years and the results were completely different. And now all of them are going to reformer to try to get the results, because you have to get your mind working, or you just will never get the same strength. It's just not possible. Yeah. So self-love and mindfulness is the absolute key, like not just to feeling good inside, but to getting stronger and being more fit, and healthier in here.
Absolutely. I a lot of my clients have come from like CrossFit or doing a lot of HIIT training, and most of them, and I'm not saying that this happens in every case, but most of them have come to me because they've had injuries.
Yeah.
And then we have to scale things back and work on the engagement to the core system.
Yes.
And
it's I see it all the time. I've never seen it benefit someone.
Because I mean, unless I would say that there's a time and a place for it. And if you have a really good solid base of mind to muscle connection, you've been training in the gym for a long time, you have, you've got a good foundation when it comes to your breathing exercises and pelvic floor engagement, and
it's a lot.
On, then when you go and you do CrossFit, your body will probably have the reactionary skills to do it.
Yeah, to do it. But
when you just start out and you're like, I just had a baby, 6 months ago, and I'm going to go into, CrossFit for moms, and now you're doing box jumps and you don't really have a history of like exercise. Well, that's why you're getting injured. It's not a safe thing to be in that at that moment.
No, I just even realized when you were speaking that was what I did to myself after I had my second child. I went crazy for this Australian girl named Kelli, and she did like all this crazy ab stuff, but she was like 20. She was like 15 years younger than me when I had kids, really young. And I was trying to do exactly that, jumping up onto stuff. And I ended up hurting my knee and I hurt my back. And I'm not kidding. It discouraged me from doing any physical exercise. My story became, I'm going to hurt my back. I'm going to hurt my back. And like years. So then again, I had gained all this weight through pregnancy. I felt really unhappy. And then I couldn't shift it because I did mindful, exercise, not mindfully and not from a place of self-love, from hating my body. And it put me back, I would say, like seriously, probably 3 years. I didn't do anything. So again, self-love and mindfulness first.
So Kelli, we've talked about the lens that we look through and our consciousness and becoming more aware. Do you have any other tips that you could share in order for people to learn how to start embracing themselves and in order to tame that roommate?
Well, like the perfect place to start is on your mat. So that's the thing, right? I would really recommend come and do that month of free classes, sign up to do that with me. And then I will guide you through that journey. Because what you do, and you can do it in 5 minutes. It can be any amount of time. And all you start doing is, and we practice on the mat because it's easier to practice when you only are practicing with yourself and you're purposely triggering and you have someone guiding you, right? Like when I have people on the mat, I'm working you through pressing on those triggers that life's going to press on anyways, but then guiding you through how to stay centered in your core and not identify with what you're witnessing. And then it's through learning to do it on your mat that then when you go out into life and you're interacting with other people or circumstances beyond your control, then you are then able to practice sitting in the seat of the witness. So trying to just practice, let's say in life when you're interacting with other people, would be like you never practicing being patient ever, and then expecting that you're going to be able to deal with someone like let's say a toddler throwing a total tantrum. My psychologist used to say to me, like, you can't just expect to only practice when she's throwing a tantrum. It's not going to work. You're too triggered. It's too difficult. It's like you're trying to go from no practice to like dealing with a 10 out of 10 situation. Not going to work. You have to practice being patient when you're driving, when you're in the line at the grocery store, when someone's speaking really slowly, when the internet's taking a long time to load. Then that practice gathers up. And when you get the harder moment, that's, real life moment, your practice. So it's the same thing with self-love. You just start by having either trying to guide yourself, but it's easier if you have a guide to start to guide you into not identifying with the roommate. And then by stepping away from that voice in your head and realizing it's not you, you start to gain power over it. And then what happens is you just keep watching that voice. So when I move through my day off the mat, I listen to what my brain is saying. And I literally will, even when I talk to someone else, I'll be like, oh, for example, a friend doesn't call me back. And I'll be like, oh, you're not upset with me, are you? Let's say. And she'll be like, oh no, why? And I'll be like, oh, my brain was creating a story that you were pissed off at me and not ringing me back. So I don't identify with it. It's like, oh, that voice inside my head was trying to tell me this. And so then what I do is I just watch the voice. And every time the voice says anything negative, anything from like, oh, fuck, there you are running late again, or, you know, oh, there you are, and now the tire's flat again, and you've hit it again, or, you know, or, oh, you're so stupid, you always forget to call someone back. Every self-loathing comment, every single time you catch it, you're looking in the mirror, oh, I'm fat. No, I'm fucking juicy. I look great. Every time you rewire, oh, my boobs are sagging. No, they're not. They're sitting in the perfect spot. You know, oh, it's this, and you chip away, and it's just one little droplet at a time, and eventually it just gets easier to catch yourself and to realign. And then it's just a fast process. You know, for the most part now, I don't move into places of self-loathing. I catch myself pretty quickly, you know, but it's only because I've been doing it now, and not for 16 years. I've been doing it really consistently for, let's say, 3 years of constantly just watching that roommate and pulling it up. And really, before you know it, it's just, there's not as much back and forth. You're staying more in your core, more in that place of love. And then that helps you be stronger in everything from your physical practices to your relationships or your career.
Yeah.
So yeah, start with a practice. Go and do one of the videos. Like on my videos, there's even 10 minutes, there's 15 minutes, and you just start with some, like a controlled setting. And then you use the skills you've learned there, and then you go out and you practice because other people will be the trigger, right? Life ends up being the yoga. You know, when you come to the mat with me, I'll trigger you on purpose. So we open the body up and we breathe into the tight spots, and you trigger yourself and you stir up all the emotions you haven't processed. And then you practice not identifying with them. Then you go out and life will push on you, like I've pushed on you in class. And then you will practice with life. So life is the teacher, right? Like I'm the teacher when you come to my class, and then life teaches you, and you just receive the guru in different forms.
You're kind of doing like yoga psychotherapy, because a lot of
yeah. It is.
the technique of triggering you within a session in order to create that sort of experience of, you know, what it is that is, you know, is problematic for you, or what you came for, or what it is that you're looking to make a change with, and shift a behavior. So you're sort of doing that within your practice. Do you want to tell everyone about your free gift in your classes that you are offering?
Yes. So I run on, since Corona started, since good old coronavirus began, I've been running an online program, because I run really regular yoga retreats. And so most of my clientele, they do come to weekly classes, but most people come with me and they come away for a weekend to dig deep and do this work of, you know, doing the deep inner therapy work to get big clearings out. So when coronavirus happened, I moved things online so that people could get that regular digging out without having to go anywhere. And so the online program is about 4 hours of classes every week, and everything is focused on doing exactly what I just described to you. So my goal is for people to leave sessions feeling like you very literally have had a massage. And I don't mean like, oh, a little bit of a massage, like you've been dug out with somebody's elbows in a Thai massage, but you dig yourself out using your tools, which are your consciousness and your breath. And so we move through the body, we pull it open. The stretches are very, very deep. You feel amazing. And then I teach people exactly where to breathe. And then I guide you through how to stay in your center and not identify with what's coming up. And by doing so, purify that energy that was there, you know, as tightness in your shoulders or your neck. And when you release the physical tension, what happens is it shows us, it's like a mirror. It shows us what emotions you specifically are holding on to and what thoughts you have that are holding you back. Because the thing about therapy, right, is that you can lie your way through therapy, and it can happen that a therapist, even if they're very good, cannot help you because you might not consciously know what you're doing as the human to hold yourself back. But the thing is, the body can't lie because it holds all the energy of everything you haven't processed. So when people come to me, they don't need to know what it is that's keeping them stuck. Sometimes they know, and sometimes, a lot of the times, they're just like, I feel like shit and I don't know what's wrong. I'm stuck and I'm blocked, you know? Can you fix it? And it's like, yeah, I'll show you what's stuck. I'll help you see exactly what's stuck. All we do is we pull the body open, and then they just watch. It's like, watch what comes up and you'll see it. And people are often surprised, where I have people who didn't even know that they didn't feel good about themselves, that it was like this surface thing that they thought they felt good enough. And then all of a sudden they start pouring through their body, and they're just filled with this feelings of not enoughness. But by letting it burn off that energy, right, it's like you pulling back the veils that's blocking your inner light, and then you fuel your inner vibrancy. And so we end up finding out exactly what they were doing that was holding them back, because they do it on their mat. Like, you can see it. You can see it when people are distracted. You can see it when they want to run from themselves. They'll hold their breath. People just do very obvious shit. And most of the time, like I said, they didn't know they were doing it. And then by becoming aware of their patterns, they empower themselves to then change it. You know what the other thing is too about self-love that I'll say is, it's really important to surround yourself with people who do also have a spiritual practice. I mean, not all your friends, like I have a lot of friends who do not, but I do have at least 4 friends who have the exact same spiritual views, who understand all the stuff I'm talking about, because I've either taught them for 10 years, you know, or they happen to know the same information. And then what happens is, those people, when you are too identified with your shit and you're not sitting in your own guru, your own center, they act as the guru. So because guru just means the one who unsticks, the one who removes the goo. So when I'm in a moment and I'm like, fuck, why is this happening? I will speak to one of those people and I'm like, can you illuminate this for me? Like, what do I need to do here? And then they just, in that moment, guide me back to my own center and guru within. So that's also a key, is find people, even if it's a lot of my students, I'm that person for them, you know, they don't have it in their friends, and shit will happen to them and they'll send me a minute voicemail, and you know, I'll send it back. I'm like, oh, great. This is the gift in that. Here you go. There's your perception shift. Go move from self-love. Keep going. And you just, it's like, oh yeah, here you go. Guide you back to your center, back to your core. There you go. Back home to your core, back to your core, back to moving from love. And yeah, so you find your people who love you, you know, because everybody's seeing you through their own shit, right? So you got to find a few who are not so much back and forthing between their core, but actually are more centered. And if it's not people around you, find a teacher, you know, like a spiritual teacher who can be that and hold space for that and see you with love, see you as the tree.
I think it's very important to have people in your life that, you know, are experts and that you can learn from. And
Yeah.
you know, I remember I wanted to go to like a snowboard camp one time, and my ex had told me to go and apply for it, and there was 3 options that I could go into. It was beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And I remember saying, well, I'm going to go into beginner because I don't want to look stupid, like I don't want to, you know, seem like
Yeah.
I'm applying for advanced and then I like can't keep up with them. And he said, you know what, you go in with like the best people out there. It's so much better for you,
Yes.
the person that is the worst
Yes.
group, because then you can only go
Yes.
from there and learn from them. And I think a lot of this
Yes.
we want to kind of like have all the information and know all the information, be the one to like say it and know it and be the expert on it. But it's so, and you can have like, you know, those friends that are learning from you.
Yes.
Teaching, but I think it's so important to have a teacher as well, and like a few
Yeah.
that you can reach out to and say like, I want to pick your brain on this. Well, you know what, you have a beautiful gift that you're sharing with the world. So, you know, keep on
Thank you.
that. It really is lovely, and it is, I can only imagine the amount of people that are benefiting from it, and that are going to listen to this and get some, you know, great pieces out of it. And thank you. I
You're so welcome.
include, you know, how everyone can find you in the show notes, and also your link to it's a 1 month free.
Yeah.
to the program, to your yoga that you're going to be giving, that anyone
Yep.
can access virtually, right?
Yep, anyone can access, and I put up the whole new series on Mondays, and so the classes are available just at your own convenience. So it doesn't matter where you live in the world, and you just access them through Zoom, and you just have the link for a week, and then I switch them. So over the course of the 4 weeks, you'll get 4 totally different sets of classes.
Well, I'm going to join as well because I really want to.
Yes.
I'm on the other side of the world. I haven't been able to really go to any of your classes. I will definitely be joining you virtually, and thank you for shedding light on the deeper emotional aspects of the core.
Yeah, just a light topic on core connection to your divinity.
A little light topic. It got
a little light topic, remembering who you are.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It was.
Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, so good.
Have a good day.
Oh, you too, babe. Bye. Bye.